We're gonna do a small body demo next, but I need, once again, a character suggestion. We can do Miles Morales again. Miles has kind of like a basic body, though. He's not like proportionally super unique. And again, if we don't have any suggestions that I'm in love with, we're just gonna do Ganon from Tears of the Kingdom, cause Big Hunk Man in the game is really fun. All right, so I have a few here that I created recently, just as a quick example here. You know what? Let's do this little Shift S action. Drop these. Sure, you can live there. That's your special. You get to go at the bottom. We're looking for something more unique. All right, I think we're gonna do Daruk, this big boy. So he's big, he's chunky, and it's pretty unique for proportions. So this will be fun. So the process for this is gonna be the same for how I would do any of these characters that I have on screen. So cool, let's get in. Let's where should we start? Where you ask? Oh, you guys know where. You guys know what I'm gonna do. We're grabbing our good friend the sphere. Okay, there we go. Holy crap. He a big boy. That a big JPEG. All right. You can go over there. You can go over there. Goodbye. We don't need you anymore. So this is Daruk from, I actually don't, is he, I don't think he's in the new Zelda. I think he's from Breath of the Wild. Doesn't matter. He's a Goron. Big boy. And we're going to break this down into how, showing off the process for how I would block out a character's body. So I'm going to do a really simple head, even more simple than what we were looking at with the head blockout demonstration that I showed you guys before. And then we're going to get right into the body, the big arms, the tiny legs. I love it. Some really cool stuff going on here. Not going to focus on details, just big shapes. So like I said, basic shape for the head. Let's turn perspective off. I don't really use perspective during this stage. Once we have a simple shape in here for the head, you'll notice I'm not even like changing it at all. He's like basically got a sphere for a head. And start working on the body. So there are a couple different things that you can do when you start working on your body. I'm gonna recommend, if you are confused or struggling, my tip is to break it down into more shapes. So what I'm gonna do here, I'll show you guys a little trick. I'm gonna start off one big shape, and if you want, you can even like compare, like, oh, okay, a little bigger. And we're not gonna line it up. We don't need to line it up. We're good. Lining up is for wusses. No, it's not. Just kidding. I line stuff up all the time. Use whatever tools you can. All right, so you try that and you're like, but like, what do I do up here for the chest? Should I like sculpt that? No, we don't sculpt during the blockout phase. We block out during the blockout phase. So we just take another shape. So another sphere. I'm just duplicating one of my other spheres, and we're gonna put that here. And let me hide that for a second. And this will be like the chest piece, the pecs, the booba, the Goron booba. All right. So there's that. And now we're gonna start layering those shapes on top of each other. Okay. So that's the basic idea. Now, before we start working on anything too much, because what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna end up messing up your proportions so much at this stage, trying to focus on one area alone, it's not gonna be worth your time. So I really recommend that you block in all the parts first, and then you start working on some proportions. And the reason for that, I've said this many times, but proportions are relationships between shapes. And if you are only working in one area and only have like 1 or 2 shapes there, you're not gonna be able to figure out the proportions because you need all the other stuff in there. Come on, guys. So we're gonna do exactly that. We're gonna get the rest of these shapes in here. It's gonna be super rough, but we'll take our time with it. We're not in too much of a hurry. This is not pure ref. No, this is just ZBrush. You can import a texture and, you can just import an image and display it here. Just natively in ZBrush. Through the texture menu, import, it's called Spotlight. Click on an image and then you click on this button that says Add to Spotlight. And then in your brush auto masking menu, you have to turn off a toggle that says Spotlight Projection. It's in your brush auto masking menu. All right, continuing on here. So again, really basic stuff. And, you know, depending on the person, you might kind of keep your stuff combined. I've mentioned before, you know, it's nice to... Why is that doing that? That was weird. It's nice to keep things split up. It's a little easier to control. And you'll notice I'm just using spheres for everything. You can use whatever primitive shape you want. Like for the fist, because it's a fist, a cube might be a little easier, but, you know, it really doesn't matter. Just kind of get a basic shape there. Cool. And now he's got some like really stubby little legs, but I recommend that we create a transition piece. So the transition piece in this instance would be like some rough hips. So, whoa, come on back. That badonk was flying off screen. All right. So he actually gets like wider as he goes down. And as we start to get some of these pieces in, you'll notice me like jump around more because we're starting to get more shapes that we can compare proportions against. Dear God, I cannot talk today. All right. Do a couple more tweaks here, rounding out some shapes. And look at this. He like narrows in and then widens out. So he gets like this really round belly here. That could be another shape too. I'll just kind of, whoops, just pull it out for now. Keep it real basic. So we got that transitional piece for the hips. That's fine for now. Here, let's add the legs on. We won't play with that too much. All right, another little insert shape. And if you would like, you can repurpose stuff. I'm just gonna, like, you could repurpose your arms and then plop them down there, and hey, you got some legs started. I'll just do it here from scratch again, though, just so you guys can see it again. And then, let's see, what do we got next? It's like a little one of these guys. That's fun. A little stubby leg. And he's got a really tiny feet. And I'll just kind of clip that off at the bottom. All right. Let's adjust this shape, the gams, as some might call them, into the badonk up here. We'll come back to the legs here in just a moment. These are actually too big, too long. So, look how long I've made those. But that's okay. You know, that's just the starting point. It's important not to, like, sit here and, like, oh, I didn't get it on my first try. I never make anything right on my first try. You gotta take your time with stuff. You only need to know 20% of the program to do most of the work. Yeah. So I would say that 20% is like the main stuff. I think you're talking also the 20/80 rule, right? Someone's an entrepreneur. Is that Pernard's rule or Pernad's rule? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But that's kind of true for just about anything. With ZBrush, you really don't need like a ton of tools, but the tools that you do need are really important. They are like the main tools. Like I don't use a ton of brushes when I'm sculpting. I don't even use the number of brushes that I have here at the bottom of my screen. I'm not using that many brushes. I probably use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brushes working on any character. And then as I get deeper, I'll start to specialize more depending on the character and my needs. But yeah, I would say that's probably true for most software. All right, really, or you know, not even just software. Like, you know, a lot of stuff is highly specialized, and as software exists longer and longer, they start to add more stuff. Like, who in chat uses Procreate? Like, I love Procreate, and I love that Procreate keeps things so simple. But in one of their like last updates, they released a 3D painting like add-on. And I was just like, why? I thought you guys didn't want to have this software bloated, and now you're adding this? Like, who uses that? Does anybody in chat, I mean, there might be somebody, but does anybody actually use that? Like the paint on 3D models, texturing stuff in Procreate? I mean, I'm sure some people do, but like, they should have just made a separate tool for that instead of throwing that into Procreate. It felt really kind of just added on. Baka Bros, oh, thank you so much, man. Thank you for the $5. Supporting a fellow artist. Do you do any commission characters? I don't. I do not do any commissions, unfortunately. I don't have time for that kind of thing. But that would be so fun. I would love to do some commissions. It has probably been close to a decade since the last time I did a commission. And it's been... What's going on here? I have an extra sphere. There we go. It's been, God, 5 years since the last time I did any freelance work. One of the last big projects I worked on was Clash of Clans for a couple months. And that was a really fun project to work on. But thankfully... you know, the stuff here that I do with YouTube and my course, the Appeal Academy, all my students in that program and all the courses and tutorials that I sell online are my main source of revenue now. So I don't really need to do freelance work anymore, which I really love because I'm not going to lie, I don't particularly enjoy doing freelance work. I love working with people. I love working with people so much. It's so fun, and I feel like I grow the most when I'm working with other people and they're like everybody's pushing each other to be their best. But like, man, it's so stressful and like also a ton of work and really hard. Not that like what I do now is easier by any stretch of the imagination, but at least like for the most part, I set my own schedule, which is really nice. But again, appreciate the donation. That's super kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. This is ZBrush. ZBrush is the software. Yeah, I know. I don't know anybody that uses the 3D Procreate stuff. I don't know. Oh yeah, in Photoshop? Yeah, I don't think it yeah, before Substance. Oh god, what was it called? Somebody help me. I can't remember. The 3D plugin for Photoshop. I used to use it. Why can't I think of it? Oh man, that's gonna kill me. Please, somebody let me know in chat. Substance. Yeah, Substance, like... Oh man, I remember when Substance Painter came out. It was... like... One day we were all using a scattering of like 5-ish different 3D painting tools, and then Substance Painter, I feel like in a week, everybody switched to Substance Painter. Like, I feel like it was that fast. X-Hudaman, the HUD boy himself, welcome back. I am so glad to see you and so glad to have you. HUD boy is... has been around here on my channel back when I used to live stream to like just me, myself, and I so many years ago. And I'm really glad that you're still around and pop in on occasion. I'm glad to see you. Quixel, yes. Oh my god, thank you. Quixel sweet. I don't think that the Photoshop tools exist anymore. If they do, what are you doing? Who's using that? Stop it. Stop using that. Cut it out. Why aren't you doing anything else with your time? Alright. I'm not gonna do the beard. I'm just, you know, we're just doing simple shapes, guys. We're just doing the block amount. The blockies. For the demonstration purposes. But even at this point, I feel like you guys probably have a really good grasp on like general idea, kind of what we're aiming for. What's going on with this guy's belly? I need another reference. Someone explain to me what happened here. This guy's a mess. I've been very well. Thank you for asking. Just got married last week. Boom. So it's been very busy, a very, very busy time. Been lurking while on the job hunt. Love it. Love me some lurking. Love me some job hunting. And by love, I mean hate. I hate job hunting. I remember how terrible that is. And I am so sorry for you. I hope that you find something that you love soon. Job hunting is really hard. And a full-time job in itself. Alright, I'm separating this. Remember when I said earlier? It's really... Let's do this. If you're like struggling with the shape, just, you know, split it out. Make it smaller. Make it more simple. Why is this so big? Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's been a really busy time, and it still is a really busy time if I'm being honest, because me and my wife Abby are now trying to buy a house, and the housing market is an absolute shit show. Is the only way I can describe it. It's terrible. It's so horrible. Like, it's like, hey, you can live in this shoebox for $1 million. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't fit in a shoebox, and I don't have $1 million. Oh, well, congratulations to you as well. Got married just a year ago, roughly. That's awesome. A whole husband now, yes. As before, I was only half a husband. Yeah, we did go on a little mini honeymoon. because things are really busy right now. What we did was we went to Chicago for a few days. Chicago, for people who live there, I do not envy you and your traffic. Your traffic is terrible. It took me like 2 hours just to get out of your city, and I am ashamed to admit that I ran a red light and almost killed like 20 people. Just kidding. It was like one guy, but he saw me, and it was cool. It was totally fine. And I didn't run the red light intentionally, guys. It was an accident. Purely accidental. But yeah, Chicago was awesome. I love Chicago. We went when the weather was beautiful this time of year. It's so nice. During the winter, it's really, really cold there, at least from what I hear. So I live in Cincinnati, and the weather is supposed to be like roughly similar, but I hear that like Chicago gets way, way worse. But I have no idea like how true that is compared to Cincinnati, because I haven't been there in the winter. But yeah, Chicago was super fun. One day we walked like 10 miles. And if you too walk 10 miles in one day, you can get a badonk like this boy right here. But yeah, that's what we did for our honeymoon. We're also taking the reason why we did like a really mini short trip is because we're planning on taking a long trip. For like 3 years, my friends and I have been planning a trip to Japan, and then COVID happened and we couldn't go. So then we just kept delaying the trip and delaying it and delaying it and delaying it, like many people have done. And now, like, finally, you know, things have calmed down, and the country of Japan has opened their gates once again, so the weebs are welcome to come back for a short time and say hello and look at all the anime and whatever else they got over there. I've been there once before. It's pretty neat. But yeah, that's kind of our big trip that we have planned and coming up. So that'll be fun. That'll be later this year, hopefully. Folly achieved husbando status. Yes. My wife is an artist. Yes. Her name's Abby. We have a YouTube channel together. It's called Drawbly. We started it about 1.5 years ago. Just type Drawbly into YouTube or go to my YouTube channel, and on the homepage there will be a link to it. Drawbly. Drawbli. So we've been learning to draw together for the past 1.5 years. So I've been sculpting for a really long time, decade, roughly. But I don't draw a lot. So that's been really fun to do. I've made a couple videos about it. Talk about it every once in a while here, but you know, it's our own thing, and we actually upload a lot. We upload 3 times a week over on Drawbly, which is a lot more than I upload here, but that's because sculpting's slow, guys. I don't know if you've heard. Sculpting really slow. Hit hard. Sculpting tough. Don't quit your day job. Sculpting too hard in some ways. Alright, so I'm just working on these shapes a little more. I'm not really like doing anything too specific. I'm just kind of looking, seeing what I see, seeing what I saw the table in half, put 2 halves together to make a whole, you know how it is. He's got a really thick forearm. But this is the exact same process for the head. It's been a minute since. So we were looking at Miles Morales earlier, right? Working on this thing. Exact same basic idea, where we're breaking things down into these primary forms. With the head, we did 5 shapes, right? But with the body, it's not quite as like by the books, especially when you have something unique, which is why I wanted to do something unique, so that I could show you guys how different things can be. 3D is so much slower than drawing. Oh my gosh, yes. That's why, I mean, I love drawing for a lot of reasons, but that is one of the main reasons why I love drawing. All right, so he's like about to tip over backwards, so I need to fix that. So here's what we're gonna do. Transpose master. This is pretty cool. I love conventions. They are so fun. I especially love artist alleys at conventions. Never done one myself. Would love to do one in the future at some point. Especially with Abby in Drawbly. But yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm gonna look that up. I'm actually gonna make a note of that right now. All right, so what do we think? We're like basically there. He's got, you know, we can adjust some things here. Let me make some, the reason I came in here was to make some big changes. So I'm gonna make some real quick big changes to these arms. Make them a little bigger. And he's like weirdly long in the belly region, isn't he? Like his legs are even more stubby than I have made them, and I don't know how that's possible because I made them so stubby. All right, something like that. He got a donk on him though. All right, he's got, yo, I just realized he's not wearing any pants, and he's just got a belt. He's just got a belt kind of covering up whatever he's hiding down there, and I feel very uncomfortable working on this character, so whoever suggested this, you knew what you were doing. Because now I can't stop thinking about it. What's under that rope, though? Now you guys have to live with this as well. He does have a bit of a sumo pose. I think you're right. You know, he's kind of leaning forward. That's a good point. You know, he's like, but I want to sculpt him in a neutral. I want to keep the neutral pose. And I can. I don't want to do that because I think we're gonna lose too much of the gesture of the figure from the profile. But that is a really good observation. So when you are, and everybody kind of keep this in mind, whether you're drawing or whatever, when you're sculpting a character in that neutral initial pose, you want to be really careful to analyze what's happening. Like, you know, asymmetrically, he's got one arm up here and one arm down on the other side. It's going to change the way the anatomy is, you know, working for the pec, for the back, if we could see that here. These muscles are all moving and changing and adjusting, so it's all going to be really, really different depending on what's going on with the pose. Here, I'm going to keep things neutral. I'm going to keep it the way I have it for now. He would have a neck, I guess. So I'm going to slide that head up, and let's do this. He's probably got like a really thick neck under there, so I'm just gonna do something like really basic like that. And if anything, we're gonna be higher in the back. So when you're looking at the shoulder girdle, that's like a common name for this whole area. When you are looking at this area from the side, excuse me, there is an angle back in general, kind of like that, back towards the back of the head, going up. The reason for that is because of your triceps, as I called them earlier, your trapezius, your traps, that trapezoidal shaped muscle that connects onto the top of your neck here. Often the muscle, you know, that you get, you know, really sore if you're standing all day or like, you know, bending down a lot, looking at a screen a lot. It's a very common muscle to have like tired and sore because it's, you know, it's doing a lot of work. It's doing a lot of different things. But yeah, I think that's good in terms of basic shapes. But yeah, that's what causes that that angle from the side. All right, I'll T-pose that back. I might consider getting rid of that at some point. A lot of the times transitional pieces can be really helpful. It's kind of like this weird idea for a lot of different areas. Actually, I was going to say like kneecaps and elbows, but you can kind of use them a lot. So now the process would be exactly the same, right? For the head, we took miles, and this literally took 50 brush strokes. That's not a lot. To just like start showing you guys how you can start going to the next stage after you combine everything. So that was just like a quick idea there. Process would be exactly the same here. So we would go to merge visible, and you know what? I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna take that back. We'll mulligan that, because I actually wouldn't recommend that you combine everything. I would recommend that you split stuff into groups. So I would say you can keep your arms as one group, keep your hands as a separate group, not group, but mesh. So you're good to like combine this stuff and start working on it that way. You can do that for your torso and for your legs. You'd probably want to keep your feet separate, and I would keep your head separate as well. It just gives you a lot more control if you combine everything into a singular mesh like I did before, like this, and then you start working on it, and let's start just like blending stuff out, right? So let's say you're working up on the face, and you've got this really beautiful, detailed face. And you're like, oh my god, I love this face, but I need more resolution. Look at this resolution. Well, let me subdivide it, you say. Oh, that's a mistake. So you subdivide it. And you're like, oh, I subdivided my geometry. Well, now I have more resolution in the face. But not only do you have it in the face, you have it everywhere. And you probably don't need all that resolution everywhere. You probably just need it in the face. So that is why we keep things as separate subtools. That's one of the reasons why we keep things as separated subtools. You get a lot more control out of your resolution, you get more control out of your mesh that you're working on, and there are creative ways that you can kind of blend and hide seams between different parts, especially head into the body. That is a really common one that you will see.